Today's engineering tips. I'm going to show you some Windows 11 tips. We're also going to talk about stacked cross sections. And then I'm going to talk about placing text of measured areas because there's a tool that used to be in MicroStation back in the V8i days. I think they added it back into a Connect version of MicroStation that we didn't upgrade to, so I didn't notice it then, but I noticed it now. It's in 2023, and it was a tool. It was an old MDL that we used to have to load, and it looks pretty much the same as it did. It's got a couple more bells and whistles. The Civil product, Inroads, had its own MDL that ran. It was called Civil Tools. And that whole Civil Tools thing has been incorporated into the OpenX products the whole time. So this bit that we're going to talk about, placing text of measured areas, is mostly going to be about the MicroStation functionality, but we're going to use it inside some stacked cross sections that I'm going to create with ORD because it's kind of handy that way. I'm going to start with my Windows 11 tips. And I want to show you that what I am displaying to you here is the Windows 11 desktop. It has a theme that displays different pictures and they change out, which kind of drives me crazy. I am running Fences on top of it, which is mine. And that came over automatically. I didn't have to reset up my Fences or anything. But I want to tell you about the major things that I think will help you when you get Windows 11. One thing is the choice of the theme will set a lot of things in how you experience Windows 11. Changing one thing in the theme, and the theme it encompasses a whole lot of stuff. The colors, the background, everything. You change one thing and it sets you into a custom theme. So I found the easiest way to reset was to set my theme back to what was delivered, which was inside ODOT of the month. These pictures, there's 100-something of them that'll cycle through. But there'll be more about personalizing your background and your color in just a bit. The first thing I wanted to start with was how to sign out of the new Windows 11. What some of you will notice, I'm going to draw with my red arrowhead, is that the Start button has moved and it's a different color. In Windows 10, it was white. I'll show you that. Actually, I can show you that right now. I have it set up so that I can give you a blow-by-blow comparison. I am remotely attached to a Windows 10 laptop. And I've put a fence there on that remote laptop that says Billiard Green is Windows 10. And so what we see on the old Windows 10 is that the Start button is all the way over at the left-hand side. It's white. It's got a perspective kind of drawing. There's a vanishing point there, which is kind of weird. So it's not actually a rectangle, but it's a stylized rectangle. But that was the Start button. So if I wanted to sign out, the first thing I would be looking for in my new Windows 11 interface is that same button. And sure enough, I see it, but it's a different color. It's blue, it is rectangular, and it's a 3-dimensional gradient color, which I don't care for, but some people do. The way to sign out, if you follow the instructions that you're led to on the news article about Windows 11, I think it will actually appear a little bit differently. What I'm tempted to do is to just left click on the Start button, just like I used to. I would left click on the Start button, I would left click on my name, and I would choose Sign Out. That's the way I did it in Windows 10. But Windows 11, when we left click on the Start button, okay, I do see my name. I'm going to left click on my name. It looks different. And then I get this pop-up and I don't see anything that says Sign Out. I'm told on the instructions, the news article says that if I click the ellipsis button, now an ellipsis is a ... or more button. It says I'll see Sign Out if I click the ellipsis button. If I hover over it, it says it's more options. If I click it though, I don't see sign out. I see other users and switch users. I'm going to take a little quick screenshot of this thing and just kind of draw a box around what I'm looking at. If I zoom in there, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. Hang tight. Some of you will see the word sign out. It's white against light gray. I can't hardly see it. So if I wanted to actually sign out and choose the sign out, it would be very difficult. And it just drives me nuts. It's not visually accessible as far as I'm concerned. So you can save yourself a lot of pain by noticing that the right click menu on the start buttons look very similar. I'm going to show you that. In Windows 10, if I right click on the start menu, I get a list of text. No icons. Kind of love that because I'm kind of a text person. A list of text things. And sign out and shut down is right there. And I could choose sign out. Not going to. Now, if I right click on the blue start menu on Windows 11, right click again. It's a text list and shut down or sign out, and there is sign out, which I am not going to choose right now, but this is, I think, the easiest way for you to sign out of your machine, the new Windows 11 machine after you get it upgraded. Right click on this start menu. We'll see that theme come back a couple of other times. So typically what I choose from this right click menu would be either sign out or lots of times I restart. All right, what was the second thing? It was controlling your volume or which speakers you're using. Like, are you using external speakers or a headset or the little system speaker? Controlling that. Just wanted to point out the system tray is still on the right. In Windows 10, the system tray was everything that was around the date and time, the clock. Well, the system tray is still everything to the right in Windows 11. But they are doing something a little bit different with groupings of things. And if I hover over the group of buttons that look like a network icon, a speaker icon, and here's my battery icon because I'm running a laptop. If you're running a desktop, you won't have these. These three things are in a group. And if I left click anywhere, I get the whole group popping up. And here's my volume control. It's a slider. I can actually mute by clicking the speaker icon. If I want to choose an output device, I can choose the controls at the right-hand side, and that gets me into choosing my output device. Now I'm just going to stay with my headphones. I'm not going to change that. If you right-click, told you that right-click, we're going to come back to it. If you right-click on any of these icons, I'm going to right-click on the speaker icon, you get what we used to see in Windows 10. I could open the volume mixers. I could go straight to the sound settings. I just open up the sound settings. So I just want to show you that the right click can sometimes give you menus and options that are very similar to what you were used to seeing in Windows 10. Speaking of settings, I've got the settings open. This is it's kind of a browser, but I wanted to tell you that a lot of your settings are hidden. If you look at this upper area, which in the vernacular, that's a breadcrumb trail, and it should tell me hierarchically where I am. I'm inside the system looking at the settings for sound. That's what's displayed here. In the past, I would have expected this sound group to have appeared on the left-hand side. And I find that what I see on the left-hand side is a lot more general. And I don't see sound appearing there on the left-hand side. So if you are used to looking at these settings visually, you're going to have a hard time. Use the Find a Setting is what I recommend. Or you can go straight back to the system by clicking the system. This is all of the system settings. But again, looking through this list visually it drives me nuts. So if I'm looking for a setting, I will just type it into the Find a Setting window, which is also known as a search box. You can also get to this settings browser pretty easily. And the way I like to do it is I get to it from my desktop. For just a second, I'm going to minimize my remote session so I can see my desktop, and you can see my Windows 11 desktop. When I right-click on my Windows 11 desktop, you'll see Display Settings and Personalize. Both of these items open up the system settings. So I just open one. Doesn't really matter which one, but if I was trying to change my resolution, I have realized that it's right there in Display Settings. Let me just go to Personalize, just for grins. Personalize gives you quick access to your background, which I'm going to want to change, and the colors. Windows 11 is pretty subtle with colors. I find it not very visually accessible for me. I have a visual impairment. I wear contact lenses, but I realized that I don't like the icon thing. And so I start to customize my experience, and it's actually a lot easier to customize your experience. But if you're looking for a setting, type what you think the setting is called right into the settings box and you'll find it. For example, let's say I just wanted to set the resolution of my screen. I just typed Resolu, didn't even finish. Change the resolution of the display pops up. Yes, this is some kind of AI thing. Not going to worry about it. There's a vertical bar, and it uses the accent color, and the accent color from the default theme is very subtle. I just happened to notice that accent bar is showing me the active group. It took me right to display resolution. The other things I want to point out, just down on the taskbar, differences between the Windows 10 and the Windows 11 interfaces are the size of the icons on the taskbar, even for the same resolution. I've found that these icons in Windows 11 are a little bit larger, which is odd, but I like it. Their icons are a little bit larger. We already talked about the Windows pane button being now rectangular. The Start menu has some differences. Let me just show you that Start menu. If I bring my Windows 10 back to the front, just so I can see the Start menu. If I left click on the Start menu, I see some, I see my profile over here and some settings on the left, and then I see a folder list of applications, and then I see things that are pinned, all on one Start menu. Well, with Windows 10, it was all on the same menu. With Windows 11, they've got them separated. So I see my pins, and if I click the word all in the upper right corner, I get to the list of all of the things that are installed on my computer. And then my profile is down at the bottom. That's a regular left click on the Start menu. So we said earlier, I told you the right click menus are surprisingly the same. And so that's what I tend to use on my Start menu, is that right click menu a lot. Let's talk about File Explorer for a second. I'm going to bring up File Explorer on my Windows 10 system. This is File Explorer, and what we see, if I make it, I'm going to make this remote system larger so that you can see it more easily by right-clicking in the title bar of my remote session and turning off Smart Sizing. Smart Sizing fits the entire remote screen onto this screen. So now I have horizontal and vertical scroll bars, and File Explorer in Windows 10 has these large buttons on a ribbon. So this is a ribbon. You're not going to see these ribbons in Windows 11. You'll still see buttons, but the buttons with the names have been replaced with icons, and they're smaller on the application windows. So larger on the taskbar, but smaller in the application. We still have the same things, the same basic things. Let me point those out. We have the address bar. we have the search box. We have the left-hand side is typically a folder list of my PC, and the right-hand side is typically the details. This is like any Explorer. Lots of Explorers are like this. File Explorer, ProjectWise Explorer, they have all these basic things. At the top of the left-hand side is usually a quick access area where you can pin things. And so we see a group of pins. This continues through in File Explorer in Windows 11. I'll show you that in just a second. I'm going to go down to the bottom and to the right so that you can see the taskbar. This is kind of interesting. Some of you who have attended many of these sessions over the past 4 years will know that in Windows 10, I used things called taskbar toolbars so that I could quickly navigate to internet or network locations. I could go to other folders, could open up my share, and that actually just opened up another window pane. Let me see if I can navigate up there to my East share. It just took over the current display of the File Explorer, so it's now going to a network. That was the cool way that I made things easier for me to navigate. And I had ProjectWise locations, so I could make ProjectWise open. Taskbar toolbars are a thing of the past. You cannot create a taskbar toolbar in Windows 11. That's why they don't appear down here on my Windows 11 taskbar. Can't create them. So what I've done is I have replaced them with quick access pins to folders that are stored on my desktop. So you will notice in Windows 10 on the left-hand side that I had a quick access pin to this export folder that actually just lived right on my desktop. It's where I dumped a whole bunch of things that I was exporting. But I had a pin because I went to it all the time. And when I select that pin, you can see it goes right to the desktop into the export folder. Now, there's nothing there today. Let me go back to, let's just go to the DGN folder so we can see stuff. I'm going to compare this to File Explorer on Windows 11. File Explorer on Windows 11, I already have open. You can see the differences pretty quickly. I don't have that ribbon at the top. Instead, I've got a toolbar with some grayed out icons. These icons activate when it's appropriate for them to be active. I have nothing selected in the details pane or the folders pane, so my actions to do anything are grayed out. They also don't have names on them, but you can hover over these and it will report to you, I guess if they're activated, it will report to you their names. So let me go to a DGN location so I can just select a folder. And we see that some of them get color and they're activated. And if I hover over the scissors, it pops up and it says, I cut. If I hover over the one with two pieces of, two rectangles, it's copy. If I hover over the one that has a letter A and an I-beam cursor, that's the rename command. Folks are often looking for the rename command. That's the icon for rename. I think this one is with the arrow that's grayed out is share. Paste is grayed out because I don't have anything on the clipboard. The trash can is delete. So you can also get these things popping up if you select and right click, just regular right click. I'll see that toolbar opens up very close to where my mouse cursor is. That's the whole idea with this little toolbar right on the right click menu. But for some of you, this toolbar on the right click menu is, it's too difficult to go to show more options and to get to this, oh, now this looks like my old menu. Let me show you how that's similar. If I bring Windows 10 to the front and I right click on a file, Let me right click on a folder at the top. You'll see a lot of text, few icons, but a lot of us are very familiar with right clicking and choosing copy, right clicking and deleting, right clicking and renaming. You can get that very quickly with Windows 11 as well. You have to push one key in order to do it. Let me bring Windows 11 to the front. If I press my Shift key on my keyboard, I'm going to press my Shift key on my keyboard and right click. A Shift right click gives me what looks to be a very similar menu to Windows 10. I have learned to do this. Shift right click in File Explorer to quickly find tools I'm familiar with. A new one that I really, really like is this Open in a New Tab. This is a big difference between Windows 10 and Windows 11. Windows 11 treats the File Explorer more like a browser, and you might have all noticed that in your browser windows you have the little pluses that are up on the tabs, and you can use those little pluses to open more tabs. Well, if I wanted to see, a folder, I can actually open it in a new tab, and I don't lose my tab that's showing me all of my DGNs. There I'm looking just inside another folder. These folders can be dragged off and can be an application window in their own right, but they can't be reassembled. But you can just click plus and create a new one, navigate, or you can right click and choose Open in New Tab. The last thing I wanted to show you about Windows 11 before we go into the open roads are things called window layouts. And I'm going to show you this mostly because of what occurs as you are moving things around. You might notice that as I'm dragging this dialog box around this application window, that there's a little pop down at the top of my screen. It's subtle, but it does pop down. I see it pop down. And if I move my mouse up onto that, it'll pop out. So there's a tab that pops down when I drag my title bar, and a whole dialog box that'll pop out. This is the Windows layout that's available in Windows 11. If you don't want to use it and you just don't want to take the time to investigate it, just move your mouse. I'm still dragging. Just move your mouse away and it will go away. Just ignore it as you move and size. You can size your dialog box, put it wherever you want. You can just ignore it. But I want to tell you, it's in some more places. This Windows layout is a real productivity tool. Not so much that I've seen for engineers, but it's a productivity tool for people that have to have a lot of windows open at the same time. This Windows layout tool is also under what we used to call the maximize or restore down button. That middle button in the group of three in the upper right corner was either in Windows 10 maximize or restore down. Now, if I hit it and left click on it, it's just a maximize and it changes to the restore down. If I don't hover over it, but just click it, it restores back down. But you'll notice if I hover over that button, I get the Windows layout, which looks very similar. This is a 3x3 Windows layout. Not sure if it has any more options. That's 9. This one that pops down is a single. Yeah, it has more options. So this one has, looks like 8 options. Anyway, so whichever way you want to use the Windows layouts, I'll just show you how you can use it pretty quickly. I'm going to open up another application. So I have some active applications open that we can play with. I'm going to open up Edge, right? And I'm going to open up, let's see. Oh, let me open up Word, just to a blank Word document. Doesn't matter. So I've got a bunch of applications open. Now I can size these individually, but you can also choose a Windows layout. So let me start with Word. Maybe I want to compare things side by side. Maybe I've got a table going in Word and I want to compare it to what I've got going on in Excel. I can start it from the Maximize Restore Down button and choose a layout, and there is a side-by-side layout right here, but it's with Edge. If I choose the side-by-side with Edge, it's actually going to just, I'll show you, it puts Edge in the side-by-side mode. So that's great for comparing those two things. How do I get out of the group? Well, you can just move I just move Word out of the group and it's out of the layout. Same thing with Edge. I can just move it back and it attains its previous shape, size. Let me go up. Let me drag Word up to the top. If I bring Word to the front and I drag it up to the top and I pop out that group, here's what I was looking for. I was looking for the side-by-side that didn't have any other applications in it. So it's two gray rectangles and I can move. I'm just dragging the title bar. I'm going to choose the left side one for Word. And what happens is it puts Word on the left and it opens up a gray background right side and shows me all of the active applications that I can choose from. I want to compare it to Excel. So I'm going to left click on my Excel picture and it maximizes it for my side-by-side comparison. I can do this with 2 Excel notebooks, 2 emails. Oh, the one that I've used a lot has been the 4x4 when I'm editing emails, because I don't know why I need 4x4, but there is a 4x4, which has been very handy. So I've got, anyway, when you're tired of it and you're done, you can just drag the top away. Do your own investigation on the Windows layout. It's kind of interesting to play with, figure out how it might be most productive for you. I use it a lot for side-by-side, copying and pasting, double checking that I've got the right information. I do see a chat. I think what's being asked is, how about 2 sessions of, say, MicroStation? No. At ODOT, we do never recommend that you open 2 sessions of MicroStation, each showing a different drawing. No, we would never recommend that, because that's the pathway to corrupting your preferences. Yes, so we don't recommend that at all. Single session for MicroStation. You can open 2 application windows, and you could use the Windows layout to help you locate those 2 application windows. You could do that. Yes, it acts on application windows. The Windows layout does. All right, if you have more questions about that, though, just give me a jingle afterwards. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create some stacked sections, cross sections at inch 20, and then I'm going to show you how those work, and I'm going to show you how to use the area tools that are now in, well, they're in MicroStation, so they're available actually in OpenRoads and OpenSite. They're available. I'll show you how to quickly use those to measure some areas and place some text. I'm going to copy this cross-section base container file. It's a template, and I do this. I've already got the reference attachments made. I've already got the view set up. So I'm just going to copy this using my right-click, copy, right-click, and here the paste button is down near my mouse, paste. And then I'm going to rename, right-click, the little A gets me into my rename. Now, to rename, I just want to take the word template out, and this is going to be my 01. Hit enter. Now I'm going to open that using OpenRoads Designer. I'm working local. I'm not going to work integrated with ProjectWise. ProjectWise and Teams, I think, fight a lot. So, all right. It's going to open up to my work page where I have selected the custom configuration, Oregon DOT ODOT, and I'm going to browse into, I've been here this morning already, so it automatically goes to where I was this morning. I'm going to choose that cross-section base file and open it. When it's open, you'll see that I already have data appearing in two different views. I've got the 2D plan view on the left, and I've got the 3D view open on the right. The reason I call this a template is because I can create all kinds of cross-section base files just by copying the file and renaming it and opening it. It's already got the level display the way I like to see it, and now it's open. So we can see that I've got references attached to the 2D default model. That is the active model, is my left-hand side 2D model. That's what's active. The right side is the 3D model. It's not active, but I can make it active, and we can see that we've got all those reference attachments to the 3D model. Now, we create cross-sections from the Open Roads Modeling ribbon workflow in the Drawing Production tab. There is a named boundary. It's a pencil icon over the top of a dashed blue box. That actually takes us into the Place Named Boundary command, where you get to choose what type of boundary. I'm going to use civil cross-section. I'm going to follow my prompts in the lower left corner. I'm just dragging my status bar wider so I can see it is instructing me to identify the path alignment. Before I do that, though, I always set a seed. My drawing seed for this exercise is the cross-section inch 20 stacked. Now, let me just explain. With En-ROADS V8i SS2, we had a cross-section style that would place real-world section graphics in a design type model where they were stacked bottom to top, and where we could draw our own graphics, we could copy section graphics, and we could use the measure tool, and we could use measure area flood, for example, and ultimately we could print the thing, to a PDF. We can do the same thing, but the steps are slightly different with OpenX. The reason the steps are different with OpenX are mostly because the graphics for the civil data is not drawn into a cross-section design type model. They are referenced into drawing type models. That's referenced in. Also, the referenced graphics are a dynamic display. You can't copy them. You can't copy them into an active file, but you can snap to them. So we're going to use those two pieces of information to follow the steps for how to do something similar and get a printable PDF out at the other end. Now, I've set my drawing boundary seed. I am prompted to identify the path element. That's my red alignment, which when I hover over it, it's my complex element L. It's my L line. So I just left click. Now I know where I want to start these sections. I want to start them at 2 plus a pair. I want to go to 4 plus a pair. I want a specific left and right offset and maybe a specific interval. What I can do is I can put some information into the description that's helpful. I'm going to put the interval information in there, 25 foot, and I'm going to put the left and right offset information. I'm going to go -75 to center line. That's my offset information. That way, if I have a bunch of different cross-section groups, the name boundary groups, I can tell which group I created for what purpose. Now, I'm going to click into the start location field and just simply type 200 for 2 plus a pair and hit enter on my keyboard. The enter locks that start location into what I typed. Click into the stop location, enter 400, hit enter, it locks it to 4. My left offset, I want to be -75. I want my right offset to be the center line, which is 0. I'm just clicking into the next field. I'm not hitting enter after I enter the left offset, the right offset, just clicking into the next field. All of the rest of this is set up according to the drawing boundary seed. I do want it to create drawings, and I want it to show the dialogue. I highly recommend, if you're doing this for the first time or experimenting, don't cut a bazillion sections. Don't create a bazillion models. Do a small amount. I'm doing every 25 feet for 200 feet. I think that's 8 or 9 sections. Not bad. Now I'm going to follow the prompts. Lower left corner, if I move my mouse off of the dialog box, the lower left corner says I need to accept or reject the path that I selected. So I'm going to left click to accept. I need to accept or reject where to end. And I need to accept or reject, finally, that I want to place these boundaries. Watch the right-hand side. You'll see the boundaries were drawn into the 3D. And now it's prompting me to just verify this information. I want to show you what's set automatically. The drawing boundary seed automatically set the annotation scale for both the drawing models and the sheet models. I do not need to change it. Nope, don't need to change it. It automatically set the detail scale that the drawing boundaries will use when they are attached as references into the sheet. Now this is interesting. This is a stacked sheet. The drawing boundary doesn't have any limits. There's no paper size set for this drawing boundary seed. It's an infinite piece of paper. You're not going to be limited by how many that you can stack upwards. It's if you have 500 sections, it's going to stack 500 bottom to top. But it's going to attach each one of those references that it makes by that inch 20 detail scale. So it's actually going to scale the data. A lot of people will be tempted. I'm going to click OK to get it to generate. A lot of people will be tempted to try to measure things in the resulting sheet model. Now, the sheet model is not real world. The sheet model is a piece of paper where everything is scaled down. So no, don't bother measuring things in the sheet model. It's all scaled down. Everything looks good. I'm going to zoom in here. Sorry. I'm just going to kind of fit the view to, let's look at station 20 plus 25 just for grins. I'm going to kind of fit my area. Okay, so I've got 20 plus 25. All of this information is attached as a reference. All of it. The reference is coming from the drawing type model. An easy way to get to the drawing model is to use your View Group Manager, and I'm going to select the drawing model, which is on the right-hand side. It's a gray kind of triangular icon, and it tells me the station. There is one drawing model for every section. What did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9. Cool. 9 sections. Here I am in 2 plus 25. What information is actually in this model? Well, it's probably easiest to tell by looking at the level display dialog. The level display dialog, I've got a little bit of a large resolution here. The level display dialog, when I select the active model, shows me that I've got stuff on 3 different levels. The rest of the stuff is coming through from a reference, and the reference is clear back out to the civil data. Anything that's drawn in this model, I can copy, woohoo. But the only thing I can do to stuff that's not drawn in this model, is referenced in, is I can snap to it, which is actually great. But what I want to do right now is I want to toggle off the display of the general text. That's all of the cross-section information, stations, offsets, elevations. So now I'm looking at this grid, which is in this file, and all of the grid text, which is also in this file. Well, let me turn off the grid and the grid text. Okay. Now what I see is, looks like a shape, that's the clip boundary, and then that's on the default level, and then the data that's referenced in from the section. What if I wanted to measure the area of, I was interested in this area between the existing ground and my cut ditch. I wanted to know what that area was. So I might use my measure area tools. the fastest way to do measure area for me to execute the command is to hit the space bar on my keyboard and choose measure area off the pop or measure group off the pop-up. And that allows me to choose measure area. And then I can go to the measure area command and I can say, I want to do it by a flood. I'm just going to flood this area because I don't know how many points there are. And I want to use a dynamic area so that as I hover over the things, it says enter point inside. I'm going to enter a point inside and nothing happens. What we see in my message center is it says no enclosing region found. I might say, what? That just doesn't seem right. Let me turn on my grid. And let me execute that command again. Might be able to go flood again. Sometimes I have to, there it is. Now it's activating. But look at the dynamic area. The dynamic area is just going to the grid. So things that are referenced in from civil data, my measure area tool can't touch. It's just not working. So just don't use it. That's what I would do. Don't use it. What if I wanted to actually both measure that area and annotate it? You can do it at the same time. Here's where I want to show you where the area tools got placed. I'm going to type into the search ribbon at the top of the interface here, and I'm going to type, let me type area tools, just so that we can see. I know there's a group out there called area tools. This search box will not show you groups. It will only show you commands. So I'm going to backspace over that, and I'm going to type the word place area. And when I type place area, I get 4 things popping up from the ribbon, 3 of them that I'm interested in today, these upper 3. Measure area and place text, calculate area and place text, place area and place text. These are all on the same group of tools on the drawing ribbon workflow, the analyze tab in the area tools. Just so that you see where those at, I'm going to go to the drawing ribbon workflow, to the analyze tab, and show you the area tools. I don't like to go that way because I have to change my ribbon workflow. I like to stay in Open Roads modeling. If I select something from this search box, there's also a recently selected items, but if I select something from this search box, I can left click right on the dialog itself, right on the item itself, and it will execute that command. It also puts it in the recently used items list. So now measure area and place text are in the drop-down list of things that I recently used, and I don't have to change ribbon workflows. Now, there is a flood command, but we already know flood is not going to work for this. Element's not going to work either because none of these things, well, except the grid, it'll work on the grid. I use the dynamic area. This has some similar buttons to the measure area tool, and I can see that it's doing the same thing. It's showing you just the grid that's in the file. So I'm actually not going to use this command. It was a great idea, but I think that there is a little bit of a faster way to do this, and I am going to use a MicroStation command, and then I'm going to use a different command, not this one. Let me first use the place shape command, and place shape is on my spacebar pop-up menu. It's in the placement group, so you can choose that, and it's place shape, but it's also going to use the active attributes. So I just wanted to show you, if I go over the active attributes, let me set my active attributes to a right-click rename. I'm going to choose right-click rename 4 And I'm going to make my active color yellow and my active white too, so that when I place a shape, it's going to take on the active attributes. So just place shape, and I can I can draw a shape that uses, let me just use my intersection. I'm going to start it right here at the intersection, and I'm just going to snap to some locations. And I've got some vertices, and I can draw a shape. Now, once I have a shape drawn, I can use flood if I want to, but it would be easier, I think, to use just the element. Now, I've drawn this element. This drawing model is real world size. If I measure the distance between two of these vertical lines, I should see 10 feet. If this is truly real world size, I'm going to choose the measure tool by searching for it on the ribbon. I'm just going to choose measure area. It's got, I don't want flood, and I didn't want measure area. Silly me. Let me do it again. Measure, I wanted to measure a distance. Silly me. Between points is fine. I just want to measure the distance between any two of these vertical lines, that one and that one, and it's 10 feet. Okay, getting over my head with all these tools. So I know this is real world size. I drew this area. I can select this area with the element selection tool, and I can look at the properties. And in the geometry, it will actually tell me what the area is. It says it's 38.991 square feet. Well, what if I want to annotate that? Well, let's use some of those area tools. I'm going to use, let's see, place area. There's place area and place text. There is measure area and place text. I've already got the shape placed, so I'm going to use measure area and place text. Now, I'm going to point out that you can choose a text style, which is nice with this tool. Some of the other area tools are a little bit cruder and you cannot choose a text style. But let's just see what happens when I say I want to use that element and I want to place a suffix. I'm going to place a suffix of square feet, the way I like to see it shown, and it's prompting me to select a shape to measure. So I'm just going to left click, and I see 38.99 square feet. So it's got a different accuracy. So I don't have the 3. I believe this is in my design file settings. I could change that, but it's going to annotate it when I left click to place the text. And there it annotated it. Anything that I draw in here will automatically appear in the sheet. And I see Jeremy has said there's a point-to-point method in the tool in lieu of flood. Yeah. There also is a point-to-point method in the measure area and place text. Let's play this out a little bit. I've just placed some information in this drawing. Is it showing up in my sheet? Let's change back to viewing the sheet. Here's my sheet, and I'm still at, and I see it. And that's yellow against white, which is what it will print like if I choose, you know, the eBids cross sections print style. Yeah, it'll print like that. But this is kind of, you know, not great for working with. Let me change my settings for my view. It's under my preferences. In my view options, I'm just going to turn on the sheet background that's already set up. That's a little bit easier for me to see. Now, in this sheet model, I haven't turned off the display of all of these other offset and elevation graphics. They're still there. You can see that those are text fields. But I do see the information that I placed in here, and I have total control over the level display, and I can change that. Let's go back to this. And I wanted to show you what it means to use insert field. If I modify this shape right now, I'm just going to grab one of these handles and drag it up. We see that now, if I go back to my sheet the data that's displayed is incorrect. So I should probably measure the area and place the text. I should probably run that command again because this is static text and I have modified the area. Or when you're placing the text, when you're actually telling it to measure the area, you can tell it that you want the text to be dynamic by inserting a field. I'm going to run the command off of the recently used. It's the measure area and place text command. I'm going to run it again on the same element, but I'm going to check the box to insert a field. And I'm going to select this and place that above it. And now what we see is if I move this back down, the one that I placed with the field, it's got the gray background. It dynamically updates. That other one is kind of garbage. But I also have different units. When I'm placing it with the text field, I get the same kind of units that we see in the properties. SQ with the tick mark. But this one is worthless for me right now. So I'm just going to delete it. Let's say I wanted to annotate some stuff that showed up in the sheet that told people, maybe what I was doing, or maybe I want to do some calculations and I want to document that in the sheet. Absolutely. You can go to the place text command, where however you choose it, and you can place some text. Now, the measure area tool and place text, I wanted to point out something. It puts the text on the default level. If I hover over that, you'll see that says level default. It uses all of the other attributes, color, well, weight's irrelevant for text, but it uses the color correctly. That's great. But it's not on the same level as that shape. The shape itself is on the active level. So if I wanted to, I can modify this after placing it. I could say, I want you to be on the right click to rename level, just by selecting it, and now it's on the right click to rename level. You can also change the level in the general properties in the level dialog. So now it's got the same level. Where was I going with this? What if I wanted to add more text? I'm going to change my active level to right click to rename 5 just for grins and change my color to match it because I like to do stuff like that. And I'm going to place text. And this, sorry, it's a very large box because I've got my resolution changed, but this is an example of a bunch of text. Now, this text is just a long line, and it could be really long, really, really long. I mean, I don't know, I could copy that and I could paste it, and now I have an even longer line. But maybe I want that text to wrap. You have to invoke wrapping. That's a right click on the ruler that's in the text editor, and I can enable word wrapping. Now I can grab, left click, drag the right edge, and it actually wraps the thing, which is kind of handy. So that's nice. So now it's going to look like that. I'm going to place this text several locations, okay? I'm going to place it right in the box. I'm going to place it below. I'm going to place it to the right, place it to the left, and I'm going to place it up above. So I've got text all over the place. I just want to show you what happens. There's no boundary. There's no clip boundary. Well, there is, but there's clip boundaries on each one of these drawing type models, but it's not where the drawing boundary is. What does that even mean? I'm going to go to the sheet view and look and see how this text appears in the sheet. And what we see is that I've got, text inside left and right looks good because these are stacked bottom to top. But look at the text that I placed below. It is overlapping the cross section below. So just be cognizant of where you place the text. It's going to probably overlap if you place it above or below your section. If you want to leave notes, a better place to place them is to the left or right. Now, if I wanted to print this, I'm over again, but we'll just quickly print this. I'm going to place a fence around just 2 of these and use my print dialog. You guys have all done this. I'm going to apply a print style. This is a sheet model, so I'm going to use the sheet cross sections. I like the cross sections because it's going to leave it in color, which is kind of nice when you're doing cross sections. It's going to put it on 11 by 17, which is fine. I could actually tell it to put it on a maximum 200 by 200. If I had a lot of these sections, the maximum 200 by 200 is there because that's the limit of a PDF. 200 inches by 200 inches is the limit of a PDF. So I could maximize this to the 200 by 200. It's actually going to just limit me to my fence, hit my print to file. I'm going to dump it in my desktop or in my same folder, and it will open this up. And you see I get my, I've got my grid that shows the distance between, and so you can see all of the graphics. Now, why is that line black? Well, the pen table that I use for cross sections changes yellow to black, just so you know.
Hey, Lenny, it's Matt. I do have a quick question on, I know sometimes when the guys are creating profiles for me, sometimes that existing ground line will come in solid, and I've seen it happen on sections too. Is there a way if that comes in incorrect to switch that to dashed, or is that a start over?
If you're looking at a profile of a ground line, it's going to get that information from the terrain.
Yours came in perfectly dashed right there, and I was just wondering if that doesn't come in correct, are you able to switch that at all on a cross section?
You are not. No, you cannot do it on a cross section. If I had that issue, the person who can fix the ground line display is the owner of the terrain, the existing terrain. So that's going to be your surveyor. I have scoured my data and I have updated it. My data is pretty old, but I updated it to my current standards. I updated the templates and I updated the Open Road standards. Yes, your surveyor could do that, but sometimes updating standards will revisit observations and they don't want to change their terrain. So it would do more than just change the symbology. So if you have that situation, what I would do is I would go into the drawing model and I would just grab from the ODOT roadway construct. I believe there is an existing ground line here someplace. Somebody who does this for a living could direct me. Man, I don't even, oh, it's in the profiles, duh. Okay, existing ground. It's one of these. It's either at CL or it's at horizontal. Let's try CL. And I would just draw a line right over the top of this. Doink, doink, doink. I'm just going to draw my own line and just kind of, you know. So there's my line. And what level is it on? It's on, oh, what's my active level? Not what I want it to be. So I'm going to change that to a level that I can control. Let me just put it on level 1. So now it's on level 1. And I can go back into my sheet view. And this is section 2 plus not. And in section 2 plus not, I see both of them, but I can say now I need to turn off with the level display from 2 plus not. I need to turn off their ground line. Let's see, where is it at? That's their E-tear display ground, and mine stays on. That's the fastest way to do it.
So I'll just add to that, Lenny, that if it's a newer, like, yes, if the terrain has been produced for a while and we're just getting into using it and we're having this problem, yeah, that could be a concern. But if it's like they just released it to you, then quite possibly they did not set the right feature definition on the
Right.
terrain. And that is something that when in survey we build the terrain, we want to see triangles, we want to see all this different stuff. So we have a working feature definition that we use, and the surveyor should set the existing ground terrain definition to one of the existing either contours, existing triangles, and then that sets the profile display correctly. So there can be an issue with that. So if you are noticing that, always check with the surveyor and say, hey, did you set the right feature definition? Because that
And they
could
would
be a
again
real
have
quick
to
fix.
edit. They would have to edit the file, but they can simply change to the correct terrain feature definition.
And what Lenny brought up is totally correct. If we have to go back and retriangulate, there are some pitfalls to that. But if we can do it with just a simple, oops, I forgot to set that, then that's a real quick change.
Yeah. I thought I would open up with Open Site Designer. You guys can't do this because you don't have all these different pieces of software, but I'm going to open up my terrain. I'm going to open up my published terrain, which was published with Open Site. This is two different pieces of software open at the same time, so I'm not sharing preferences, but it's not something that you guys could do. Okay, this is Open Site Designer. Any year. Okay, I'm just going to go into my Explorer. If it comes back to me, into my Open Site model, look at my terrain model, and I can see the feature definition that it's using is called existing boundary. But you can actually change, they would have to change the feature definition that is assigned, and they would need to change it away from one that is triangles over sampling. That one won't display well, this oversampling. Typically what they're using now they're using these survey ones. So most of the existing ones are totally suitable because we've changed the name of the feature definitions. This is an old file, so I still had that old feature definition still burned into the file. I should have deleted that before I opened this up. I'm sorry. They're using survey feature definitions, which look different. And the ground line, when it displays, will look different. So what they should be doing is going into their terrain, selecting a feature definition, and choosing one of the existing feature definitions. These will display that ground line the way that we'd like to see it in plans and profiles. Yeah. Thanks for coming out today. I really appreciate you guys being here.